Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Network Podcast for Healthcare Consultants, where we bring to you experienced healthcare consultants as well as industry experts who are here to share some valuable resources and insights with you as you are building your consulting business. And today, I am super excited to introduce you to the very smart and brilliant and talented Tamara McLemore. She is an amazing consultant. I can't wait for her to introduce herself, but she also does amazing things in the world of project management, as well as training those who are interested in receiving their PMP, which, by the way, is a very hard exam. So Tamara, I am excited for you to introduce yourself to my audience of healthcare consultants.
Well, thank you, Elle, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I don't want to give too much of my background. I do not like talking about myself, so just a little bit. So I've been in the IT, tech, telecom industry for about 20 years. So yuck, I just dated myself. I started before Y2K doing switches and cell sites for Ericsson. I worked for the federal government, General Services Administration, doing VA hospitals, nuclear regulatory, the Martin Luther King Center, you name it, I've done it. I even worked for an airline, a major airline here in the Atlanta area, and I've even worked for a law firm. So let me tell you, project management is global, but it's for every industry. And I've been doing it for a long time. And what I have learned is that everybody is a project manager. Everybody that I meet, you cannot tell me one person is not a project manager. So that's my motto. I'm an accidental project manager, and I'm here to share as many tips and nuggets as I can.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you. And initially, when we connected on LinkedIn, I was impressed with all the clients that you work with, number one, and manage some extremely just large projects. Complex projects, but you even have some history in the healthcare industry. So you work with healthcare systems also. That intrigued me because, as you mentioned, we are all project managers. I didn't realize that until I was actually a consultant, and I am having to break down the entire scope of work for the client into phases and navigating communication, like all of those things. So for the novice who's new to consulting, I would love for you to kind of share the scope of practice of a project manager, because I think a lot of us are already doing the work, but we just don't know it.
Correct. So if you think about a project, the definition is it's a unique product or service. But what does that mean in layman's terms? That means you have a task to complete. Your boss, your manager, your director comes to you and say, I want you to do this initiative by the end of the year. And guess what? We get it done. Hook or crook, weekends, evenings, we get it done. And guess what? They give you a timeline, and they also give you a budget. And a lot of times that budget is small, but guess what? You still pull a rabbit out of a hat and get it done. So you're managing the requirements, the customer, meaning your patients. You have to communicate with all levels of management, your peers, everybody that you work day to day with, your patient, your end users. And so you're juggling all that. We have to be concerned with quality. Oh, in healthcare, quality is huge. The quality, not just of service, the quality of the products you're using, the qualities of the different vendors, the third-party vendors. I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago and I got a shot, and they withdrew blood, and I'm scary. And the person who draws my blood, I mean, you won't even know. You'll talk to her and she'll be like, I'm done. You're like, what? You're done. Literally, I felt it. I was like, girl, you trying to kill me. So literally, I noticed, she said, yeah, we got our vendor that the needles are bigger now. I noticed it right off that it was a change. So the quality of some of the products, because of logistics, is impacting me, the end user. So all of that, you have to understand and juggle all of that. Is it pricing? Is it quality? It has a risk to it. We're juggling it all. So that is a project, literally in a nutshell. And what we don't understand is we do the same thing daily at home. So when I'm teaching my boot camp, we are juggling households, mortgage, car note. That's a budget. What we don't understand is everybody is pretty much on a fixed income unless you're in sales and your check fluctuates. but more than likely, you have a set budget once a month. And then you have your planned expenses and your unplanned expenses, and they fluctuate. So I always tell everybody, you have your plan versus your actual. You run into Trader Joe's with a hand cart, and the lady says, excuse me, miss, do you need a real cart? Because your cart is running over. You get to the register. You're like, I thought I spent $50, but it's really $150 because you got all the cheeses, and I love the plants at Trader Joe's. So then if you go to Target and you mess around in the dollar bin, and then you go to cosmetics and accessories, by the time, once again, you get to the register, your plan, what you plan to spend versus your actual is going to be way off. Go to Whole Foods, do that again and again. So then you have to think, okay, I have overspent at the beginning of my month. I need to either de-scope my project, meaning not go to brunch, not go to happy hour, whatever that is, because you still have the same budget. So that's how I teach my boot camp in real life, day to day. And then all we're doing is putting some zeros, a couple $100 million, $1 billion. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I never really took into account the factor that, yes, there is a huge budget behind me being able to solve the problem. So is that initially some of the intake information that I as a consultant need to acquire from my client when I'm gathering, okay, this is the problem, this is how we solve it, but we got to know how much our spend is, because it takes money for me to be able to solve a problem.
Absolutely. And do you want a Target solution or a Neiman or a Saks solution? And I love a good old Family Dollar, but I'm not buying food from Family Dollar. So what type of money are we talking about? And so even when I'm interviewing for these major contracts that I'm on, when I'm interviewing, I say, well, is the budget already set? And they're looking at me like, oh, wow, what a question. Nobody even asks that on initial interview, because you have to understand what the budget is. Is the timeline already set? Well, yeah, this is a 2-year project. Well, how do we know that? Because you haven't hired me yet. I haven't brought on my team of consultants. We haven't gathered the requirements. And so you really have to understand that, yes, everything will fluctuate. However, when you start a project, there are just some things that you have to understand out the gate. And it's very important.
Yeah. Well, let's dive deeper into that conversation, because, I feel as though the audience in which are following me, Tamara, they are eager to solve problems, right? Right now in healthcare, we are building, rebuilding, restructuring post-pandemic, and they have all the solutions. But when it comes to, okay, we've done our lead generation, we've converted the client, now we're to the point where, okay, they said yes. So we're like, oh, what do we do next? It's like, okay, you got to gather that intake information. So what are the types of questions that we should be asking to make sure we can ensure a really good result?
Absolutely. So a couple things. It's more of a conversation, getting to know. We call that requirements gathering. So for instance, when I got my first VA hospital, I was scared to death because I was used to doing corporate or government agencies that are open 9 to 5 and then they close. So I was scared to death to do a hospital setting where it's a 24-hour operation. So I was like, well, this is a whole nother ball game. And when I had the VA hospitals, each VA wanted a different type of technology. And we were trying to streamline their process and have their systems talk to each other. The hospitals talk to the clinics, talk to the mental health facilities. And so literally I asked my boss, I was like, what are we going to do? He was like, get them all in the same room. So we literally rented space at the Marriott. Everybody from Alabama, Mississippi, the surrounding areas came into Atlanta, and we sat in that conference room at the Marriott. And I said, okay, let's go start the requirements. Everybody's ready for a dissertation. I'm like, no. So I walk out the room, come back in as a patient. I'm a VA patient, and I would like to make an appointment. I'm walking in. How is that done? So you see how we're starting to gather requirements. Okay, there's somebody at the desk, and do we put our information in a kiosk? But we're dealing with aging set of group. Is that feasible? Then we go to, okay, I want to call with my smartphone and make an appointment, put in my social security number, my date of birth, have all my records come in and say, okay, this is L and I want to make an appointment. I don't want to hang up. I want to get transferred to pharmacy because you know how they will. Do you want to stay on the line for a survey? No. I want to get transferred to another department, but that's never an option. You have to hang up and call back. And so then what about the patients that want to log on their computer? And you have to understand that's different than a tablet. And what about the population that don't even have smartphones? So that's how we gather requirements. It's an actual conversation with the customer, the patient in mind. So we take ourselves out of it, and that will formulate your budget. That will give you a good timeline, like, wow, we need our patients to have this ASAP. This is a priority for our aging healthcare veterans. Let's put all the money we can on the table to make this happen. See how that's a different conversation?
Yeah. And I like how you have everybody in the room because everyone's going to have a different perspective. And then we're talking about the user experience. So actually walking through that process just opens your eyes to a bigger picture. And then also possibly or potentially even other problems that you may not have discussed in the beginning of that sales conversation. So I love how you just kind of get it all together. Now, Tamara, I'm a systems person. When it comes to business systems. Let me kind of be transparent about that. Is there a place where you put all this information?
Well, let me tell you, I'm old school, and believe it or not, I've been in IT for 20 years. I'm an old school. I have notebooks everywhere on this desk. If I was to pan this room, and so I'm old school, of course, paper and pen, but of course we have requirements gathering system. But let me be very clear to everyone. When you're gathering requirements in these hotel rooms, in your war room, whatever facility that you're using, we bring whiteboards, we bring paper, we bring stickies, whether I'm at Delta Airlines, whether I'm with the federal government, the law firm, wherever I'm at, we're bringing old school paper because there's something with pen and paper that just gets out those requirements. And literally the last company I worked for, the whole room from wall to wall was covered with our requirements. You have to get it out your brain and everybody needs to see it visually on a wall. And let me tell you, that particular project was the HR project. And I use this example in my boot camp. Everybody gets a check, whether it's weekly, every other week, monthly, we all get a check. And we had gathered all the requirements. Elle, if I was to pay you $1 million, you would never guess what major requirement we forgot. You would never in a million years guess what requirement we forgot.
I'm so curious. What did you forget?
So one of the VPs, he was coming in the room and he was looking at the wall and he was like, he went around the whole room and he said, well, you guys have a little corner right over there that's empty. We're like, okay, we know. He said, well, had you not got to that requirement? And we're like, what are you talking about? We had benefits, we had medical, dental, garnishments, bonuses, we had everything. Do you know we forgot the financial institutions on how you're going to get paid to integrate?
Oh, listen, yes, that is probably the most, we got to get paid.
But you see how close we were to it and we could not see it. And it took somebody just coming in the room, just noticing, well, where's this major requirement? And we physically could not speak. We were like, oh my God, how embarrassing. But that's the point of getting it out there, putting pen to paper on a wall, old school, so that everybody can see it all day, every day. That's the best way. And of course, we have systems, youre, Microsoft Project, PPM, all these tools to put it in eventually. But at the beginning of the project, it needs to be old school pen and paper.
Yeah, I like that. In fact, while we're here together, I myself am not a project manager, but you would be happy to know that I just hired a project manager on my team. So I am so excited. And something that we've been doing, she's helping me kind of overview everything, all the systems that I have in place. But originally, Tamara, I was doing a general intake form where when that client said yes, I would send them over information so I could just get a general intake on where they are. And then we can have a conversation before we start and just kind of hash it out. So this is validation that I'm on the right page myself. So I appreciate that. But even, just thinking about the overall, the big picture is making sure that the client gets an amazing result. That way we continue to operate excellence and we get referrals. So Tamara, do you mind kind of walking us through like what's next after I've gathered all the intake information, I'm ready to start, then like, what do you do next?
So once you have all the requirements, and I taught on this last night. So remember when you're a child and you have to gather all the requirements. I mean, the Cadillac, the champagne of requirements. Remember that JCPenney, Macy catalog that you had tabs, you wanted all this for Christmas. And guess what? What did you get? You got underwear. You might have got a Barbie house. You got one or two big things on that list, but you didn't get all that stuff. However, your parents knew what you wanted and they could get it for your birthday, special occasions later on. It's the same things with requirements. You have to get them all out. And so then with your senior stakeholders and your end users in that strategic plan of the hospital facility, you start prioritizing what's first, second, or third. Sometimes it's what's the best value. Sometimes it's based on an audit situation, but guess what? A lot of times it's revenue generated. Like how can we can get these billable hours and the most bang for our buck. So it depends on the situation in that organization, but you can then segment the requirements and break them down. But a lot of times you can't get that whole Christmas list all at once. You can't, but that's okay. You can get a letter.
Absolutely, which I think is important to have conversations with those leaders involved to be completely transparent about expectations of results and what that timeline really looks like. How much input do you have from leaders in regards to the phases in which you have to break it down? Do they give you much pushback as a project manager when it comes to, okay, here's the big picture, but it's not going to take you 6 months. It may have to take you 6 years to get this end result.
Correct. And so I have a lot of input because I have the tools, the project management tools to communicate. You can get it in a year, but that's going to be an extra 10 million. And I need an extra 75 people onshore, offshore. Do you have that? If not, then this is what your customer can get. And you have to help themselves prioritize. And so I never say I can't do anything or the word no. I hate the word no myself. Mm-hmm. However, this is what I can get you.
We hate no.
We hate no. But this is what I can get you for this amount of money in this much time. And now I'll let you make the educated decision with the customer, the end user in mind, because understanding on my project team, people think it's all techie people. No. We have end users. You always have to have the voice of the end users. And so that's why a lot of companies are going Agile. So we haven't even talked about the different methodologies. So waterfall is the old school way of doing a project for 1, 2, 3 years. After 3 years, do a big bang cutover. But now in this age of gotta have it now, Amazon every 5 minutes at your door, like even Whole Foods, you're looking for a slot. When can I get it this afternoon? Who is waiting 3 years for anything?
I'm not.
Nobody. And guess what? Is it even relevant in year 2 or 3? No. So Agile helps you release immediately, have your customer give you feedback, and you decide if you want to go to the next requirement or not. And are you an Apple user or a Droid user?
Apple user.
Okay, very good, very good. And so what Apple has taught us, they're going to do a release. Is it perfect? No. We know it's going to be some glitches. And what are they going to do? What does Apple do with us in a couple weeks? They send us that patch, they fix it on up, but guess what? We get to use the new functionality. They get feedback from us and they decide, are they using this functionality? They have the data to know what to do next. And so that's a part of being Agile. That's a part of being Agile. And that's why it works so well.
That's so good. You mentioned a project team. Now, I'm curious to know who would be on your project team. because you can't do it all on your own. As a consultant, and even me with having a project manager, depending on the size of the project, and the projects that I've been acquiring recently have been getting larger and larger. And I know the ones that you've managed in the past have also been very large. Who is on your team to help you just kind of get the work done?
When I say everybody, it takes a village. And I know that's the misconception of project manager, that we're sitting at our desk doing all this work. If you're doing all of that, that is so wrong. That we call those people desk PMs. That is so wrong. So we work smarter, not harder. I always have somebody that is a shrewd business analyst that knows how to actually capture those requirements for me and understand how the requirements are going to be broken down. More than likely, you have a couple business analysts, but they're on their stuff. You got to have an amazing project coordinator. And my project coordinators a lot of times are heavy finance. Oh, they can do a spreadsheet and Excel that makes it looks like I mean, literally color coordinated dashboard type. You have to hire these people on your team. So all the way from beginning to testing, even down to who is going to record your processes and procedures, your handbook. When I was at Delta Airlines, there was a whole group on my project team, and I didn't understand why we had brought them in so early. But guess what? They were there first before the developers and the testers. And if they had not been with me from the beginning, how are they able to train the trainers, train the engineers, have a whole handbook?
Yeah, this is really great information, Tamara, to really think about, because I know even in my consulting business, I bring on other subcontractors, but we always find ourselves as consultants doing a lot of the work because I do offer implementation solutions. So as not only the expert advisor, and then also being the one who's implementing to help these organizations, having a business analyst and a project coordinator and someone just recording the process, that would be extremely effective and help me be even more efficient in my business. Where do you find these people?
They are everywhere. You really be surprised. I mean, they're in your network. They're people, more importantly, people you work with in the past who you keep in contact with. Those people. So people that you already know. So we've all been in organizations where they reorg, and the new manager, director, VP, they bring their own people with them. And we're like, how are they gonna bring their own people with them? Guess what? The more experience I have, guess what? That is brilliant, because that whole storming thing, that takes months. And when you start a new project that you have a lot of pressure to succeed, you don't have time to break anybody new in. Mm-hmm. So that's why people bring people from their previous organizations. They reach back because you already have gelled, you know their work, you trust them. It's already a good package deal. So that right there is genius. So that's what you should do.
Yeah, absolutely. I always lean back into my network, and then the power of relationships, is huge when it comes to being in business and being able to tap into resources, and you develop those relationships, bring them on to projects. I really enjoyed this conversation. As I mentioned, I've already taken notes. As a consultant myself, Tamara, the thought of taking the PMP exam is like, I don't want to do it, which is why I made an executive decision for myself in my business that I'm going to hire someone who is a project manager who already has their PMP, but I do know there's a huge immense of value in really understanding what the overall scheme of a project looks like. So I'm just curious to know your opinion when it comes to the PMP exam, because it is not an easy exam.
It is. If you have me, it is easy. I'm telling you, I have gotten it down to a science. Really, I have. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish asking your question. It's easy. Go ahead.
I know. I've seen your students who just, have finished their exam. They passed. They brought you on as their expert. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. As a consultant, how do you feel about consultants going back to obtain their PMP? Or would it be best to hire? We do have options. What are your thoughts on that?
So I go back and forth on that because I really applaud you for, and I call it staying in your lane. Because when people ask me, well, Tamara, do you do this? No, I'm staying in my lane and I'm going to hire somebody to do that. So I do applaud you. But recently, and I have to step back, and I missed a key characteristic of mine. I graduated from the Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans. And so most of my friends are physicians, doctors, and pharmacists. So in saying that, a lot of them, they've been practicing. I've been out of college for a while, for a minute, almost 20 years, 20 something years. So they're at a point in their career where they want to do something different. I was in Houston a couple of weeks ago and had brunch and dinner with some physicians. And in order to move up in the hospital setting, in administration, they're told over and over and over with the whole MD that they either have to go back to school and get an MBA or get their PMP. So right there, that tells you how important it is, because yes, you can do the day-to-day in the patient care, but let's be clear, this is a business. And with the rising cost of healthcare and insurance companies not wanting to pay out, the squeeze is real. Let me tell you, I've had some conversations in the past couple of weeks with a lot of my physician friends. The squeeze is real. And so you have to understand how to manage a project from beginning to end and run that hospital. That is a project. Yeah. And so I have a lot of physicians that are going to get their PMP so that they can move up in their careers. Mm-hmm. So in the past couple of weeks, I've changed my mind again. And then I have some people working in clinical research with the CDC, quite a few clients. They are getting their PMP as well, because you still have to manage those budgets. You still have to understand it is a project. COVID is a huge portfolio of projects. And you have to understand how to manage that. So I'm going to say, get the PMP.
Yeah, I think it also makes a huge difference if you desire to work for an existing firm or you're going up the leadership ladder, opposed to if you are in business for yourself and you're like, I gotta start. I would tell anyone, don't let it hold you back. But I'm also interested in learning a little bit more of what that looks like. If I'm saying, you know what, I'm gonna bite the bullet, I'm gonna start studying for this exam. Whew, what does that look like? I'm already starting to sweat a bit.
That's okay. That's okay. So a couple things I want to add to the if you should get your PMP if you're a consultant. So when I worked for the federal government, I was a contract officer, technical representative, a COTAR. What does that mean in layman terms? I wrote the requirements for the acquisitions, for the prime, the sub, for the contracts. And in saying that, initially, I didn't require personnel be PMP certified. But after my first contract, it was a requirement on my contracts. And I would stipulate, I need at least 2 PMPs on that contract. And absolutely, whoever's engaging with me needs to be a PMP. Otherwise, it's too difficult for me to manage because we're not talking the same language. They're not presenting themselves and running a project. I'm running it for the vendor and for me. And that's not going to work. So I just want to make sure that I let your consultants know that will come in handy when they're on these contracts, these multi-million-dollar contracts. They want a PMP as well.
Okay, well, break down this process. Look, I'm glad I have someone on the team.
Okay.
But okay, I'm still a little like.
So the process is fairly simple. You need 30. If you have a degree, most of your clientele have a degree. That's 36 months. Let me tell you, I recently got a card note for my niece, and I was like, well, maybe I'm in the wrong slot. The drop down to get a card can go to 72 months. So 3 years is nothing as far as experience. And I can help you formulate what you think is operations into project. If it has a beginning and an end, it is a project. Fiscal year cutoffs, project. Improvement. I have a lot of clients who come to me, they're using Epic, the payment system and the billable system. Those are projects. And so I hope you fill out the application, which is fairly simple. In addition to coming to my boot camp or any other, excuse me, curriculum, it's already outlined. We go over procurement, we go over communication. I have a question. How can I word this? What do you think is one of the highest, what percentage, let me rephrase this, what percentage do you think human resources is on the exam? What percentage of the exam is human resources?
Human resources. I'm gonna throw a number out there, maybe 20% of the information would be human resources.
So the new PMP exam, human resources, resource management is 42% of the exam.
Oh, wow. That's a huge number.
That's a huge number. So
wow.
That's what I want people to understand is people think it's all these hard skills. It's a lot of soft, what we're calling power skills now. So the curriculum is broken down with human resources, communication. Of course, you got risk and quality and scope and budget, but I put all the curriculum in layman's terms. We do a study schedule, just like your job gives you a schedule and you meet it. We cut out those brunches. I tell people that are in the sports, are you getting paid to suit up for these NBA championships? If not, you will not be watching these games, you will be studying. But it normally takes about 3 weeks to maybe 45 days to pass if you're really, really serious. I give you all the course curriculum, I give you on-demand videos, but more importantly, you get me one-on-one. And we look at what you're doing day to day in your job and what you've been doing for 5, 10, 15 years. And I help you understand that you've been doing project management all along.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's that simple.
Yes. And Tamara, you'd be so proud of me. I even have a workbook over here where I have that segments out all the phases of the client work. But you make it seem digestible. And my experience with PMP is solely based off of those who are in my inner circle and they've taken the exam, they've come back and reported and said, oh, this exam is crazy. And I'm like, oh no. But you do make it, again, you make it sound easy. And with that, it's something that I'm definitely going to think about. Something I recently saw and it made me think of you, Tamara. So Google now has a project management certification. What do you think about that?
So that's a hard one because I have been approached by some of these companies to teach Udemy, Coursera, which they do sell to Google and other companies. However, I did not have the bandwidth. I'm getting feedback that they're beneficial if you feel like you know nothing about project management. It's a good foundational. That's what I'm getting. I have heard the Udemy courses are really good. However, it does depend on the instructor and it depends on your background. And what PMI has done is no longer can you get the certification through an on-demand. Because guess what, Elle? You can't ask the on-demand a question. The on-demand doesn't know you work in healthcare. He may be heavy IT and going way over your head. So you need someone who can break down and understand your industry and give you examples, because that's the way my people are able to really understand it. Because other than that, it's going to be over your head. So like I said, these programs, they're working, but it's not one size fit all. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an advocate for any type of education or certification that can help us generate better results for our clients. At the end of the day, if I can make an investment in myself or in my business, that can make me run faster, be more knowledgeable, and really operate in even more excellence. I'm an advocate for that. And something that I feel a lot of the audience could benefit from is I tell this to them all the time, Tamara. It's like leverage your place of work before you leave. And so I feel as though a PMP is probably covered on a certification that the organization would pay for before you leave your job. So leverage your place of work.
Absolutely. When people come to me and they ask me how much is it, I say that should not be the question. The question is, does your company pay upfront or reimbursement? That should be the question. Paying me directly should be your last resort. Like literally no one asks their company. I make people go back and ask because I'm like, you're going to have to exercise that muscle. I hate to say put your big girl panties on and go ask. Go ask.
Yes, yes. Tamara, do you have any, if a new healthcare consultant came to you and said, Tamara, I am interested in starting my consulting business, but I'm contemplating getting my PMP. What advice or tips would you provide to them about obtaining their PMP to become even better healthcare consultants?
I would say the benefits, the laundry list of benefits are just so vast that I don't even have time to go over them. However, the top benefits, first of all, is the salary. You can be extremely good at your job, but let me tell you, when I got this PMP, oh, it was a whole different ball game. Let me tell you, Elle, first of all, my hobby is traveling. I have been to over 20 countries, and not for work, on vacation, and not coach, because you can't go to Dubai, London, Bali, the Maldives and coach. It just won't work out for you when you get there. And so I have to be able to afford these airline tickets. So the salary jump and the increase, even if they're consultants, writing contracts, we pay more for PMP certified. We pay more for Lean Six Sigma Black Belt people that are certified in these industries. So that's the number one reason. And I tell people, you have kids, they're going to need cars, private school. If you can't do it for you, do it for your family. However you want to quantify that, getting that raise. So the financial benefit, first of all. Second of all, you're going to be highly sought after. You don't have to work so hard into getting these positions. You found me on LinkedIn. When I tell you all the opportunities that I get are from LinkedIn.
I know, same here.
Same here. You have the credentials. They watch you for a minute, then they connect, and then they drop in those DMs. And that's when it goes down into DMs, but not like Facebook and Instagram. It's money, contracts being gotten on LinkedIn. So that is the second benefit. And to be honest, I was just talking to a client, the peace of mind that you have at the end of the day, that really should be number one. Because Elle, I worked so damn hard my first 10 years. Like literally, I didn't have any hair right here. I never forget one of my clients, we're at AT&T, and they were passing the plate around, the collection plate, and we passed it around. It got to me and they were like, Tamara, that's for you. And I was like, excuse me. They showed a picture of me before and then what I looked like then. It was a vast difference. I mean, it was pretty horrible. They were like, Tamara, you need some time off. You need to get yourself together, get your nails done. So you're not working efficiently. Now I sleep good at night. You can have your weekends. You can go to sleep sound and not wake up. Oh, did I send that email? Oh, did I do this? Like it cuts out all of that. So just a good peace of mind.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I really enjoyed having this conversation, and you've even brought some clarity to me in regards to my next steps. And even though I have someone on the team, again, it's just that peace of mind and just knowing, and just being an even more valuable resource. So I'm quite sure I'll have many aspiring and experienced healthcare consultants who want to connect with you. Tamara, share with the audience how they can connect with you and learn more about obtaining their PMP.
Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you get to see who my previous clients are, my current clients. You get to know me. So definitely on LinkedIn, Tamara McLemore, PMP, and definitely my website, projectbusinessacademy.com. My website, projectbusinessacademy.com. I have a sign-up sheet. Get on my email list. I promise I don't send that many emails. So I will not be filling up your inboxes. I don't want anybody to do mine, but reach out to me. I have free consultations. That nowadays, that's pretty unheard of. And let me tell you, my free 99 is the bomb. My free 99 is the bomb. So do set up a free console and just see where this could take you. And I feel like I owe Nike so much money. I'm gonna leave you with these words. Just do it.
Yes, just do it. Get your PMP. Start the healthcare consulting firm. Transform healthcare. All of the things. I love
All
it.
of that.
I love it. Tamara, I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful for our friendship. I'm happy I have you as a PMP also.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And I have shared your information with so many people. I'm starting a podcast and I want you to be one of my first guests. And I will be in Houston soon because we need to do a face-to-face with a lot of my healthcare physician friends. So I want to share the wealth as well.
Absolutely. Tamara, have an amazing day.
Thank you. And you have a wonderful day as well.
And record. Not record. Oh,